City of Douglasville Legislative Work Session. My name is Terry Miller, Mayor Pro Tem, filling in for Mayor Rochelle Robinson tonight, who is unfortunately delayed on a flight. Tonight's invocation will be by Pastor Roger Vest, who's the senior pastor of the Douglasville First United Methodist Church, and that will be followed by our Pledge of Allegiance by Councilman Howard Estes. Please rise.
Thank you and greetings from the church across the street from the hospital. That's how we describe ourselves. We've been in part of Douglasville since there was a Douglasville. And our church has always had the community at the heart of its ministry, and we continue that. So if I can ever do anything for y'all, if we can ever partner in any way to serve the people of Douglas County and Douglasville, please let us know. I think you know a number of our members, and they're committed to that as well. So let's pray. Father, we thank you for this day. We thank you for this community that you have brought into being, Lord, that you have blessed all these many years. Father, we ask that you come now and be present in our midst. Lord, bless each servant that has been called to serve you, to serve this community. Lord, bless them as they make these decisions, and Lord, continue to bless all the people, all the community of Douglas County and Douglasville. Lord, we thank you for being here. We thank you for your blessings. All these things we pray in Christ's name. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Councilman Estes, and thank you, Pastor Vest. Much appreciated. Before we begin tonight, there's a few ground rules that we're going to go over so everyone knows that we're all on the same page. This is a work session where agenda items will be presented for discussion. No official action will be taken tonight. That will be taken on Monday after discussion during our normal legislative meeting at 6 p.m. If the business you're here is not listed as an agenda item, there will be ample time under the agenda items comments from citizens and delegates at the very end of the meeting that you can discuss your business. Some of the protocol issues before we start, that is that if you come to the microphone to talk, is to keep your comments and presentation on a professional level, dealing with the facts that are important to this governing body to make their decision. We will not accept comments that are considered by the chair to be a personal attack on any individual or group of individuals. You will receive a warning from the chair if you deviate from this requirement. A second deviation results in a request that you leave the chambers and the premises for the evening. Only one person will be talking at a time. Please do not applaud or react to speakers, speak from the audience, cheer, carry on a conversation with others in the audience, or disrupt the order of this meeting in any way. The City of Douglasville is only required to accept public comment during required public hearings. We are not required to accept public comment on other items before this council. We accept public comments because we feel it enables us to make better decisions, but we will maintain order. As the chair of this meeting at any time, I prepare to stop the public comment on an agenda item if I believe the general good of the meeting will not benefit from the actions being taken by a member or members of the audience. Very, very rare that would happen. If you have a cell phone or other electronic device, please power it down now or put it in silent mode. That would be much appreciated. The agenda items will be handled as follows. The committee chairperson will read the agenda item, then the person representing the agenda item or the applicant will make his or her presentation first, and that will be the only opportunity for you to present information. No coming back. Mayor Pro Tem and the members of council will ask questions of the applicant possibly or seek additional information if we feel necessary. After that, the committee chair will ask comments or statements from the audience. There is a maximum limit of 20 minutes for those who speak in favor or in opposition of the agenda item. The applicant's presentation is included in this time allotment. Each speaker individually is limited to 5 minutes. Please make sure that you fill out one of the speaker's sign-in cards out by the front door on the little table next to where you come in. Prior to approaching the podium, please give that card to the city clerk to my right, your left. We have no online participation at this time, I believe, anymore, do we? So they'll skip that part. Please, when you approach the podium, give your name and address for the record. and whether you're speaking for or against a particular agenda item. Minors do not give their address, please. Each person has one opportunity to comment on each agenda item. No reappearances. If you think of something later, you forgot what you wanted to say initially. This meeting is not a question and answer format, even though we actually do ask questions and give answers. That's never quite understood why we say that. It is not a debate format, although debates sometimes happen. Please address your comments to the chair, not to the member of the audience, not to a member of the audience or to the city staff. If your information is repetitive and was presented earlier in this meeting by anybody, either you or anyone else, no need to present that information again. Our policy requires that printed information used for review by the city council members is to be submitted in advance to the city clerk's office, so that is included in each council member's work packet. But if you do have something to hand out, please give it to the city clerk. Do not approach the dais. All right, that pretty much covers just about everything. If anybody has any questions, we will proceed to the rest of our agenda tonight. We have no other additional announcements or presentations that I'm aware of. So our first committee will be handled by the Vice Chair, which is the Economic Development Committee. That is Vice Chair Councilwoman Nicole Miller.
Thank you. We have no business tonight.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Our next committee is the Finance Committee, chaired by Councilman Mark Adams.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. We have no business under finance tonight.
Thank you, Councilman Adams. Our next committee is Housing and Community Affairs, which is chaired by Chairwoman Dr. LaShawn Berdanley.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. We have no business under Housing and Community Affairs.
Now we're rolling. Our next committee is Legislative and Intergovernmental Committee. That's Chairman Councilman Samuel Davis.
Mayor Pro Tem, no business tonight. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Councilman Davis. The next committee is Personnel and Organization. That's tonight our Vice Chair, Councilwoman Nicole Miller.
Thank you. We do have one item this evening, and that is to adopt a resolution subscribing to certain ethical principles in government and partial fulfillment of the requirements, I cannot read straight tonight, my apologies. Requirements for recertification to the Georgia Municipal Association's City of Ethics program and a companion to the existing ethics and government provisions of the City of Douglasville Charter and City Code. And Ms. Miranda Jordan's going to help us with this one.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem and Council. The Georgia Municipal Association has every 4 years the opportunity to recertify for a distinction called City of Ethics. And for a number of periods of 4 years, the City of Douglasville has certified. Most recently, at the end of 2018, they adopted a very similar resolution to page 6 of the attachment, which is the proposed resolution for you all to take under consideration. And some of the items that are included is that the city is certifying that it will serve others and not ourselves, use resources with efficiency and economy, treat all people fairly, use the power of our position for the well-being of our constituents, and create an environment of honesty, openness, and integrity. So in order to recertify for beginning in 2023, for another 4 years as a City of Ethics, the city does need to adopt this resolution to renew its commitment to be a City of Ethics. The other items that are on the attachment are copies of our Code of Ethics where there have been any changes in the last 4 years. During the time period since 2018, there have only been some minor changes, and as you can see on page 5 of the attachment, Ms. Vicki Acker has prepared a letter that will accompany our resolution and copies of any changed ordinances related to ethics. We have not had very many changes because I believe that the actual Code of Ethics was adopted sometime, I think, in 2018. So it would have been part of the last renewal process.
Thank you, ma'am. Do you guys have any questions about this at this time?
I think I would say in this day and age, I don't think we can emphasize ethics too strongly. It's good that we're participating in this type of a program, so keep it up.
Cannot disagree with you. Okay, well, especially in light of Coach Chris Watts not being here tonight, let's go back over this Monday if that's okay. Thank you. And that's all we have this evening for personnel and organization.
Thank you, Councilwoman Miller. Our next committee is Planning and Development, which is chaired by Councilman Mark Adams.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. We have 3 items tonight to discuss. We'll start with item A, hold a public hearing and consider a request for a change in zoning from GC General Commercial to LI Light Industrial District on 16.7 acres located on 1320 Blairs Bridge Road, land lot 617, District 18, Section 2, Parcel 3. Parcel ID number is 0617-182-0003. Application by Persica Capital LLC, care of Andrew Vanhinger. And Ms. Shayla Reed is going to assist us with that. Ms. Reed?
Good evening, Mayor and Council, or Mayor Pro Tem and Council. I'm Shayla Reed, 6701 Church Street. Okay, the item before you tonight is a rezoning request for property located along Blairs Bridge Road. That is exactly 1320 Blairs Ridge Road. The applicant, Persica Capital, they're requesting to have a freight trucking operation for storage and repairs at the location at 1320 Blairs Ridge Road. This is located in Ward 5. They're requesting to rezone property from general commercial to light industrial. The current zoning, as mentioned, is GC. You'll see that to the north and south of the property is property within the county. Both parcels within the county is zoned industrial. And as you're seeing, the parcels surrounded, immediately around it for the city is light industrial as well, with the exception of the PUD that's to the south of that. So the immediate parcels are all within the light industrial. The regional activity center component is where we're identifying the future land use for this site to be. I will say that we have found that this particular location is transitioning into an industrial area. And so when the comprehensive plan comes about, we will propose for that area to have a future land use for industrial versus the regional activity center that we currently have it as. Furthering back to what I mentioned with the LI being what's shown primarily around the parcel. Currently, the location is where we had the paintball location. You can see it off of I-20. That location will be transitioned for this site. As you're seeing here on Blairs Ridge Road, that will be the entrance for this location, and we'll back up into the the I-20 location. From I-20, you'll be able to see the back of the building. The front of it will face Blairs Ridge Road. Staff has found the light industrial to be the better, has found it to be suitable for light industrial. During the October 4th Planning Commission meeting, they recommended approval of this request. And as mentioned with the comprehensive plan, staff will be recommending a text amendment for the future land use of this area. And that concludes my report.
Thank you very much, Ms. Reed. This being a public hearing, we need to give opportunity for the applicant to speak, to come forward according to the rules that our Mayor Pro Tem has set for us. And we will begin by allowing that applicant to present their application. Thank you, Ms. Reed. Good afternoon, Mr. Joe Fowler. How are you?
Great. Good evening, everyone. Joe Fowler, Post Office Box 489 in Douglasville. And this is Andrew Vehinger, who is the person who has this project before you tonight. The application seeks to move it from general commercial to light industrial. This was, as was mentioned, the former paintball arena on Blairs Bridge Road, just under 17 acres. The plans to acquire the property and use it for truck and trailer storage on the spaces that'll be developed. As was noted, P&Z unanimously recommended approval. There are, as everybody knows, a host of industrial properties in the immediate area, and this use will facilitate the truck and trailer demand for parking that we have, trying to get trucks and trailers off of the intersections on the interstates. It'll be gated, secured, 24 hours. It'll be fenced. It's not a truck stop. There'll be no overnight parking, as he'll mention in just a moment. It's going to be contractual parking with an entity with whom he has a relationship. There'll be minor repairs only. He can talk about that just briefly. There's a flood area that was something that was discussed by P&Z, and he can touch on that in just a moment. So thank you very much. With your permission, Mr. Chairman, Andrew will give you a highlight on what's going on.
Good afternoon, sir. Please give us
Appreciate your time tonight. I think Joe and Shayla did a good job of painting exactly what we're trying to put in there. I'm sure all you are
Pardon me,
familiar
sir. give us your name and address for the record for those that might be.
My name is Andrew Vahinger. Address is 3050 Peachtree Road, Suite 750, Atlanta, Georgia.
Thank you. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
They're fine. So Joe and Shayla did a pretty good job of putting forth what we're trying to do there. Basically, as you know, there's a heavy amount of demand to be near the intermodal right there for truck and trailer. There's not a ton of areas that aren't developed with distribution centers on them already. I think Joe mentioned, but the thing to point out is almost the entirety of the property sits in the floodplain, not the floodway, but in the floodplain. There is an unbelievably limited amount of things that you can actually construct in the floodplain, parking being one of them. So we believe the highest and best use for the site is, given the demand for truck and trailer storage in that area to be near the intermodal, that the best use is to convert the property. The site plan that's shown, just to be clear and upfront with everyone, given the fact that there's a lot of factors going into the floodplain in regards to not creating a difference in the floodwaters downstream if there was a level, or if the water rises, the site plan is going to be tweaked a little bit. How we show it is kind of how our grading plan initially is coming out. As we do further floodplain studies and finalize the grading plan, how much area we can actually pull in or will be in the floodplain will vary, but it won't change the use. It might just shrink the size of the parking lot. We're showing it here in kind of a best case scenario, but it most likely will not be quite that big.
Okay. Thank you for that presentation. Are there any questions that our council may have? We'll start with Mr. Davis. He raised his hand first.
Yes, sir, thanks again. I have seen the paintball underwater. I have seen it flooded.
Right.
Been right here a long time. It
Sure.
will flood. So right there, down below, is Warner on that same street? Warner Truckings?
Is Werner on the street?
Warner Trucking Company.
Oh, Werner is next door, correct?
The next door, right?
Yes.
Okay, good. I just want to make sure Warner.
And we have actually spoken with them about expanding onto the site as well, just kind of reiterating the fact that this would not be something where the public can come. It's not like Joe mentioned, it's not a truck stop. It's not open to the public. It would be something that a single entity similar to Werner would come onto and operate. So it is not, I can't reiterate enough, it's not a truck stop, not open to the public. It's just for the storage and repair of one major carrier.
In other words, you're saying repair shop and storage.
Correct, right.
Okay, because there are a lot of trucks on that main road there. Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Then from Mr. Davis' comment, then I would assume there are no fuel stations.
Absolutely not,
There's no permanent structures other than possibly on the west side of the property. I see a proposed 10,000 square foot building.
Correct.
That would be.
It is possible the shop gets smaller or even it transitions to mostly parking.
Gotcha.
That corner up top there, again, it all comes back to the balance between how much can be in the floodplain. There is just simply no way a very large building could get on the site in any way. So that's about as big as we would go.
So you would basically be similar to what I would call a mini storage facility, where you would have a contract to lease a space if you had a mini storage facility. In this particular instance, you would have a contract to park your truck there if you do in fact go forward with it being a truck parking facility.
I think mini storage would lend itself more to being kind of rented out on a spot-by-spot basis,
Right.
which that's not what it would be. It would be basically identical to the Werner property next door, where you would have one large property and one main carrier taking the
okay.
entire property.
Okay.
Again, it would not be something leased out on a spot to different carriers. It'd be one person. They would be, it would be run in the same way Werner runs it, very tight, clean, but it would not be a bunch of different carriers on the same lot. That tends to be a little
Okay, I
chaotic.
misunderstood. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is a very visible site as you're coming in to
Sure.
Douglasville. It's actually really the first thing you see when you come into the city of Douglasville. I don't see a landscaping plan that you have, and I think it would behoove you and you've got room along the edge of the property to provide some landscaping that would at least cover most of the view. But I don't think people want to see the back ends of trucks as they're driving
Sure.
into Douglasville. No offense to the trucking industry, they do a very important.
No, and we
important
touched
role,
on
but
this
Most
in
people don't like
the-
to look at trucks.
Yeah, we touched on this in the planning meeting. There are requirements in regards to the landscape buffers. This is just kind of a preliminary site plan. It actually does call for a wall along Blair's Bridge, So it'll meet all the landscape buffer requirements. It's just not shown in this plan because, again, as the floodplain study changes the final plan, that's when we'll kind of get more into it. But I mean, as Shayla can attest to, it'll have to go through all the landscape buffer requirements to get approved.
All right, I didn't know if you had intended to submit that at this time or not, but I understand. Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair.
So, Ms. Reed, basically, the statement that he has made, you concur with that as far as whatever the requirements are that would come through with a development plan is what would have to be adhered to. And so if as the applicant has mentioned, if the number of spaces has to shrink, if the setbacks have to change, whatever it requires to make it within the code of the new zoning, that's what would be required, correct?
So that is correct. For industrial, I will say that the only challenge I see here is that for industrial, you're not going to see any major buffer requirements because one is adjacent to the county's boundaries as well as theirs being industrial as well. So usually when you're like to like, you're not really having major buffer requirements there.
It's like you're in it like being in an industrial park and your neighbor is the same as you are.
Exactly.
My concern
However,
more is width along the interstate. where most
However,
people-
you could request for there to be additional trees or buffering for that location, should you desire to do that.
I think at the very least, we should consider buffering along the interstate.
I got one more question. How close is that to the Sweetwater Creek? That runs into Sweetwater?
So Sweetwater Creek, there is the creek borders the property. I mean, it's on the edge of the property effectively, but the creek has a floodway zone that we cannot touch. I mean, I'm not sure the exact distance, it's like 150 feet or something that's in the floodway. We cannot do anything in the floodway. And then, of course, what we could do in the floodplain is limited as well in regards to how much we can change the level of the property before we cannot bring in any more fill dirt, and it has to balance out effectively.
Are you saying repairs and all changes to the big rigs?
Right. Now, any repairs that would be done inside the shop. That's not something that's done in the parking lot, especially with large carriers like Werner. They are extremely conscious about environmental and safety concerns. So they are 100% not going to allow people to pop the hood of the truck and do an oil change in the parking lot.
That's what I
It'll
wanted
have
to
to
hear.
be inside the shop.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any other? Okay, it being a public hearing, we do need to give opportunity for anyone that may attend today to make any comment either for or against. If you'd come to the podium, give us your name and address for the record, and we would welcome that comment, either for or against.
My name is Cindy Welch, and I live at 3002 Concord Way, Douglasville, Georgia. I know you were talking about landscaping. If you notice at Thornton Road and I-20, all those intersection there has all been landscaped. So I would hope that this trucking company could landscape something there adjacent to I-20, just so we don't see all those trucks. I mean, it would be nice if and it appears that there is room looking at this site plan. But I just think with it looking nice down there now, we don't need to junk it back up.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else would like to speak either for or against the application, please come forward. Seeing no other person coming forward, then we will close that portion of the public hearing, and if there are no other comments or questions, then we will move on and we'll gather on Monday to make a decision on this.
Thank you, everyone.
Yes, sir. Thank you all for being here. Move on to item B, hold a public hearing and consider a request for plat approval for the purpose of dedicating additional right-of-way of North River Road to incorporate a cul-de-sac for Riverside West Phase 2, Track C, on 171.020 acres at 1550, 1701, 1750, and 1800 North River Road, land lot 173, District 1, Section 5, parcels 12, 14, 15, and 16. Application by Urban Engineers Incorporated, care of John Newman. Ms. Reed.
Yes, sir. As you're seeing before you, there is a plat that identifies there to be a minor change for this particular item. This particular location, when the plat was first adopted, it had a dead-end road for the North River Road. However, they have installed a cul-de-sac at this location. So they're asking to extend the right-of-way from the dead-end component that was previously approved to now add in the right-of-way that's been installed. So this is a previously approved plat that has just an additional few, I guess, feet of additional right-of-way.
So all we're doing then is changing the final plat in order that the cul-de-sac would be shown and would be a part of the right-of-way that we would then potentially accept and maintain.
That is correct.
Okay. It being a public hearing, let me first open the floor for any comment from council or Mayor Pro Tem. Any questions of Ms. Reed? Okay. Is there anyone here that would like to speak either for or against this application? Please come forward. I'm sorry, is the applicant here, or did the applicant have anything to say? And I apologize. If so, come forward, give us your name and address for the record, and we'd love to hear from you as far as any presentation, sir. I apologize.
Good evening. My name is John Newman. I live at 4233 Sturbridge Drive in Douglasville. I am in charge of land survey and urban engineers, and I really don't have any comment. Ms. Reed did a fantastic job of explaining the situation.
Okay. Do we have any questions of the applicant? Anyone? Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Newman? Then we will again open the floor for anyone that would like to make comment either for or against. Please come forward. Seeing none, we will close that portion of the public hearing, and unless there are other questions or comments, we'll move on, again, taking this up on Monday. Ms. Reed, thank you. Last item, item C, consider a request for development plan approval for the Hazel Park Senior Living Development on 11.41 acres on Duralee Lane in Douglasville, Duralee Lane land lot 52 and 53, District 1, Section 2, parcel ID number 005301-50048 for plans dated January 26, 2022. Application by TBG Development Services Incorporated. Mr. Marcus Thompson is going to help us with that item.
All right. Marcus Thompson, City Engineer, 6701 Church Street. Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and Council. The applicant, TBG Development Services, Inc., is seeking the development of a residential project per the City of Douglasville UDO Section 10.07 for a property located on Duralee Lane and land lots 52, 53, District 1, Section 5, and parcel number 005-301-50048. The project involves the construction of a 3-story apartment complex with a total of 90 units, 35 one-bedrooms, and 55 two-bedrooms. The site plan indicates access to the development from Duralee Lane. A total of 104 on-street parking spaces are proposed. Amenities include a community building, covered porches, on-site laundry, equipped playground, a fitness center, picnic pavilions, and a computer center. The proposed materials are 49% brick and 51% fiber cement siding. Please find attached the application, site plan, building elevations, and also a material percentages table. City staff has reviewed the application and attachments and has determined that the proposed plan meets the development plan application requirements of the UDO. Staff recommends approval of the requested development plan. Are there any questions or concerns?
Thank you, Mr. Thompson. I just have a question as to location of this. I cannot find a landmark on our development plan that will help me to identify. Share with us where this is as far as Duralee Lane, and let's use State Highway 92 as the landmark.
Yeah, I actually have the applicant here, if they want to.
Okay,
more
that's
into
fine.
that.
We'd love to hear from them. I'm assuming that this is a development plan that we have previously have zoned the property for this particular use, and now there's a development plan being presented. Name and address for the record, please, ma'am.
Good evening. My name is Amelia Johnson. Address 3825 Paces Walk, southwest, Atlanta, Georgia, 30339. As Marcus indicated, we have submitted a development plan for approval for a 90-unit apartment community for seniors 55 and over. This plan is, or the site, you asked where it was, it's on Duralee Lane, sort of northeast of, I want to say the jail. I'm sure it has a better term than that. if you're headed north. It's just above Highway 20 and below 78, so it's in that section. I don't know if that orients you.
So it's between State Highway 92 and Veterans Memorial Parkway?
I can,
It would be north of 92 and south of Veterans Memorial?
north of 20.
20 runs east and west, so yes, it would be north of 20. Yes, ma'am.
I was thinking this was closer to the transportation center.
That's where I'm trying to get to. I want to make sure I know where it is. Go ahead, ma'am, continue, I'm sorry. What is your neighbor? Let me ask you this. What is your neighbor next door to the project?
Who is our neighbor?
Who is the neighbor next door to the project? Is it the modal transportation center for the county and/or mini warehouses?
I'll be honest with you, I don't know the neighbor. I want to say on one side it's vacant. And I'm sorry, I don't know. There aren't a lot of neighbors in that area.
Okay. The reason I'm asking this is I just need to identify for the group where this is being built, because we have had some rezonings in the last couple of years on both sides of Dearly Lane, behind the Chick-fil-A, before you get to the Transmodal Transportation Center for the county. I'm just curious if this is one of those pieces. Yes, Ms. Jordan.
Yes, sir. It appears on the tax map to be located just north of the, not immediately north, but the next parcel up. If you're coming from the multimodal center toward Fairburn Road, it's going to be on your right.
So that would mean that it's between the Transmodal Center and the mini warehouse complex, and then you would have the Walgreens on the corner.
That is
Okay.
correct.
No offense to you, ma'am, I'm just trying to identify for us, because it just doesn't give us any landmarks here. Okay, I know where you are, you continue, I'm sorry.
Okay, well, like I said, we have applied for development plan approval of this 90-unit apartment community for seniors 50 and over. I think Marcus explained kind of the deal specifics in terms of units, in terms of 1 bedrooms to 2 bedrooms, parking. We have worked with Marcus's group on some site plan issues and orienting the site. We've spoken to several staff here at the city to establish this site plan so that it is in conformance with the plan. And that's about it.
Okay, thank you. And I do see on the plat here, there is a large portion of this property, now that I remember know where the location is, that is in fact in the floodplain. I see that you have situated the development on the outside of that floodplain, and I just I did not know who the actual developer would be. I do remember the rezoning. I'll open the floor for questions of council. Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I've done a pretty decent job with the site plan, considering what you have to work with there.
Right.
But those darn pitched roofs again. Let me ask you, is it cheaper to build a pitched roof than just to do a parapet with a flat roof?
I'm not the person to answer that, but that person is with me, so I'm going to let Mike Brandt speak to you about that.
Okay.
Come forward, sir, if you would, and give us your name and address for the record.
Yes, I'm Mike Brandt. I'm a Vice President of Construction with TBG Construction, and my address is 3825 Paces Walk Southeast, Suite 100, Atlanta, Georgia 30339. Yes, to answer your question, it is with the overall construction, we find it cheaper to build the sloped roof than it is to build a flat.
It would seem there's more material involved. I'm wondering how that could be.
We have not done any of the flat roofs per se, but we find architecturally too that it's more, gives more design to the building to have some kind of a roof as opposed to a flat face.
My personal opinion would be.
You don't realize what you've just said as far as our Mayor Pro Tem is concerned. Let me just add that it would seem to me that there may be a design issue with a flat roof as far as the load that you would have to prepare for and the potential roof leaks on a flat roof. It would seem to me that would be a challenge in this size building, not having a slope to the roof.
I can't
That's just
address that
that's just my
other than-
observation.
Other than, we have done about 20 of these facilities, and we've all had
So
pitched
it's what you're
roofs and
used to
everything,
building,
so
is really more the answer is. It's what you're used to building.
It is
Okay,
true, sir.
So doing the flat roof would be stepping out of your comfort zone, not so much.
It would
that-
be.
I would suggest.
We have done a small portion of flat roof on a couple of projects before, but that's not the norm for us.
Well, we can't make you do it, but I would suggest you take a look at it. It just, I think, speaking as an architect, it's more aesthetically appealing, I think, when you get rid of the slip roofs. I think that does give a little bit of a cheaper look to the building. I think it looks a little more permanent, a little more designed when you go with a parapet instead. Just my opinion, though, so my thoughts on that. But other than that, I think, it's a commendable design. You've got enough material variety in there, and I think you've scaled it in a way that you break down the facade, you reticulated it enough to make it interesting, so I appreciate all that, and you managed to incorporate some balconies and porches in there, which is kind of nice. So, think about the flat roof.
Okay. To further answer the question regarding the actual location of the project, it is really just across the wetlands from the back of the jail, immediately to the west of the jail. We are, before you start going up the hill on Durley Lane 2, I'm not sure what that
State Highway 92.
Okay, to 92. We're about a half mile south of the Chick-fil-A, I believe, is.
You're on the right side of it.
You're on the opposite
right
side of the road, that's correct.
On the east side of Durley, yes.
Thank you, sir. Other comments or questions? I knew it was coming, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. I'm sorry for this gentleman. He didn't know.
You handled it well.
Anyone else? Okay, Mr. Thompson, just so we're all on the same page, let's make sure that the Hazel Park Senior Apartments here, this development plan would meet, as you have said, I believe, all of the development requirements of the UDO. Were there any conditions placed on the zoning, and I don't know that you can answer this, but that we would need to make sure were addressed with this development plan at the time we had zoned it? I don't recall any, but now there's a lot of rezonings that come through, and I do recall this one. Are we checking to make sure that there were any zoning requirements or any conditions on zoning that might affect it?
Yes, sir.
Can you do that between now and Monday?
Yes, sir. That's correct.
If not, then just make sure that we do that, okay?
Yes, sir.
Anything else on this item? Okay, thank you all. Appreciate you coming in. We'll take this up on Monday. Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, that's all that we have tonight.
Thank you, Councilman Adams.
Under Planning and
Appreciate it.
Development.
Our next committee is the Public Improvement and Beautification Committee, chaired by Councilwoman Nicole Miller.
Thank you, sir. We do have one item this evening, and that is to appoint Mr. Frank Wynn to the Keep Douglasville Beautiful Board, Post 5, to serve an unexpired term expiring December 31st of 2024, and I believe Ms. Kristen Tate's going to talk to us about that.
Yes, good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and Council. Kristen Tate, 6695 Church Street. There is one vacancy on the Keep Douglasville Beautiful Board for an unexpired term expiring December 31st, 2024. There is one individual interested in the role. Mr. Wynn interviewed with staff and Councilwoman Miller. Mr. Wynn's bio is attached to the agenda alongside information on the role he is seeking. Are there any questions?
Do you guys have any questions at this time? No. All right. Well, just for y'all's comfort, I did sit in with them on the interview, and if you guys don't know Mr. Frank Wynn, he has been a part of this community my whole life. Okay, yep, I see head shaking. Then you guys know he is more than willing, and he seems really excited about serving on this board. Well, if it's okay with you guys, then I would like to place this on the consent agenda. All right, thank you. Thank you so much. And that is all we have this evening for public improvement and beautification.
Thank you, Councilwoman Miller. Our next committee is the Public Relations Committee, chaired by Councilman Howard Estes.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. We have no business this evening.
Thank you, Councilman Estes. Our next committee is Public Safety Committee, chaired by Councilman Sam Davis.
Yes, sir. Mayor Pro Tem, I have one item. I'm going to start with item A, to authorize City Police Department staff to accept the 2022 Edward Byrne Memorial Justice Assistant Grant Award from the U.S. Official of Justice Program in the amount of $21,513 to be utilized for the purpose of crime control, prevention, and to improve criminal justice system. Captain Stafford.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem Council. This is the final stage in getting this grant approved and accepting it. Thank you. You've already voted to get the grant. We've already voted to accept the conditions of the grant, and this final phase just allows us to accept the grant.
Yes, sir. Any questions from Mayor Pro Tem and council? Let's accept this grant and put it on the consent agenda for Monday.
Amen.
All right, that's all I have.
So
Thank you.
consented. Thank you, Councilman Davis. Much appreciated. Our next committee is the Recreation, Cultural, and Tourism Committee, and our vice chair is Councilman Sam Davis.
No items at this time, sir.
Thank you, Councilman Davis. Next committee is the Technology Committee, and I'll ask the vice chair, Councilman Howard Estes, to take that.
No business tonight, thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Estes. Our next committee is the Transportation Committee, counciled by Chairwoman Dr. LaShawn Burdette.
Yes, long item tonight. Rescind the authorization of the mayor to sign Georgia Department of Transportation letter dated July the 5th, 2022 regarding adoption of GDOT procurement policy for the procurement management and administration of engineering and design-related consultant services, and authorize the mayor to sign Georgia Department of Transportation letter dated October 17th, 2022 regarding adoption of GDOT procurement policy for the procurement management and administration of engineering and design-related consultant services, all for the purposes of removing exceptions from item 6 of the letter. Mr. Thompson.
Marcus Thompson, 6701 Church Street. It's basically a housekeeping matter. Staff recently submitted a letter to GDOT with the mayor's signature on July 5th. And it's basically to adopt GDOT's procurement policy as part of the city's local administered project recertification process. After submission, GDOT followed up with a comment regarding line item 6 that's attached to the letter. The statement number 6 initially stated that the city had exceptions to GDOT's policy and procedures. However, that is not the case. And with that being said, staff has revised the letter, basically stating that, which reads that there are no exceptions, and with the mayor's support, we will be resubmitting the updated letter to GDOT.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Thompson. Are there any questions or comments? This is just a housekeeping of just a little error that was overlooked that we
That's
need to go
correct.
back in. So do you have the letter that is it it's the same letter that we,
Yeah, it's, the revision is
attached?
attached to
Okay.
tonight's agenda.
Right. Are there any questions or comments?
I mean, well,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
yeah, it's attached. yeah.
We're good. It's the same thing that we did. We just have to correct it. Any comments? Okay, if not, I'd like to add this to the consent agenda. It's okay? All right, thank you, Mr. Thompson. Mayor Pro Tem, there are no other items under
You
transportation.
might have one more there.
One more, my bad, I'm sorry. You're absolutely correct. So we'll put A under the consent agenda. The second one is adopt a resolution to approve and adopt Georgia Department of Transportation Engineering and Design Procurement Policy as provided for in the GDOT Procurement Manual as the City of Douglasville policy for procuring and administrating architectural and engineering, A&E contracts using state and federal funds. Mr. Thompson.
So, yeah, this is basically another follow-up to what I mentioned earlier with the local administered project recertification application. Staff has agreed to adopt GDOT's procurement manual within that recertification process. So, as I previously mentioned, this will allow the city to be compliant with both federal and state laws as it relates to our procurement practices on our transportation projects.
Okay.
The attached resolution is requested by city's legal office and is for the adoption of the GDOT procurement manual.
Okay, great. Yes. Yes, Mayor Pro Tem.
So, thank you, Madam Chair. It's my
Yes,
understanding
sir.
this is bringing us into compliance with the Brooks Act, which is basically what the federal government establishes, if I'm not mistaken.
That's correct.
Just so people understand, what's being said here is that when we, if I'm understanding correctly, what we're doing is that federal, state, and local agencies do not necessarily procure architectural and engineering services by bidding. We don't go for the lowest bidder, we go for the most qualified bidder.
That's correct.
Essentially how because you can't really judge architects and engineers based strictly on their pricing. So we have to go to look at other things like the experience and
that's-
number of buildings they've done of similar type and things
It's
like
kind of
that.
typically why we put out RFQs and, in place of RFPs for these federally funded projects. So.
Just people understand, the architect can save or cost you a lot of money at the very beginning of the project, so you don't want to go just simply with the cheapest
Mess it up
designer.
at the beginning.
Thank you. Madam
Okay.
Chair.
All right. Any other questions or comments? And thank you so much. Nothing? Okay, we'll add this to the consent agenda as well.
Thank you.
done.
Yes, so.
Thank you.
Actually, we have nothing else under
You sure?
transportation. Yeah, I'm sure.
Okay, last chance.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman Danley. Do we have any other business as we do our Thursday wind down come before council at this time? Seeing none of that, we move on to updates from the city staff. We'll go with our staff attorney, Ms. Miranda Jordan.
No business tonight, Mayor Pro Tem. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Jordan. Our police representative tonight, Captain Stafford, do you have anything?
We have no business tonight, Mayor Pro Tem. Thank you.
Thank you, Captain. Standing in for our spectacular city managers, our just as spectacular city finance chief, Ms. Callan.
Nothing tonight, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. We are now at the point of our program when we open up the floor for comments from citizens and delegates. If you have anything that you would like to comment on, you're welcome to come down and speak your piece at this time. Seeing that no one is coming forward, so do we have any other business to be brought before City Council at this time, by the way? Hearing none, then this meeting is officially adjourned.